May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. May no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another, as a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child. Even so, towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate to all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hatred or resentment. Whether standing, walking, or sitting, lying down, or whenever awake, one should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desire for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. Once again, with this metta thought in mind, let us spend some time in meditation. Let us focus our minds exclusively on our breathing, noticing inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling. Then you can notice with the inhaling and exhaling, feeling of the breath arises and passes. Perception of breath and the feeling arises and passes away. Attention to the breath, feeling, and perception also rises and falls. Consciousness rises and falls. This happens very naturally. We just pay attention to our breath, then all these changes we can notice. When we notice these changes without verbalizing or conceptualizing, the mind very deeply is involved in this awareness. At that time, nothing can disturb our awareness, especially greed does not invade the mind. Only when we are unmindful, greed can invade the mind. Then when greed does not bother us, the mind, the body and the breath becomes calmer and calmer and calmer. That time mind becomes very soothing, peaceful state. At that time no resentment or anger arises. Rather we feel the metta feeling, friendly feeling. wholesome feeling towards all living beings, feeling of benevolence for all beings. At that time, mind, body and the feelings become even more calm, more relaxed and peaceful. The negative side of that is we feel sleepy. We can convert that into positive feeling. When sleepiness arises, of course it sometimes is very sweet, welcoming, but not this time. This time we want to spend these few minutes in the practice of mindfulness meditation. So we have to overcome sleepiness by arousing our spiritual energy. Sometimes it might work if you take a deep breath, hold it as long as you can, and slowly breathe out. Again breathe in, hold it, and slowly breathe out. If you feel sleepy, that would work quite well. When sleepiness, however, disappears, its opposite of restlessness and worry can arise. Restlessness and worry arises because of incomplete or unwholesome activities we have done in the past, or pondering over the future. In order to make restless even stronger, greed and ignorance also can interfere. We don't see the danger of restlessness and worry, and the benefit of letting it go. Under this circumstance, restlessness and worry remain strong. But we have to keep the mind in the present moment of rising and falling of the breath, feeling, perceptions, attention and consciousness. They are constantly rising and falling, and then mind becomes settled down. But one more obstacle remains, that is our doubt. In spite of all this practice, sometimes doubt can stay in the long, persistently. In order to overcome our doubt, we think of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Buddha is the one who introduced this very powerful, meaningful technique to free the mind from greed, hatred and delusion. And he did that and attained that state. All those who have attained in the past have followed this Buddha's example. Similarly, we have to follow the Buddha's example, overcome our doubt, understanding that it is possible that we can overcome doubt. Doubt arises when things are not very clear. In our case, we are getting clearer and clearer awareness of what is going on. So doubt may not stay too long. Doubt also fades away. When these hindrances such as greed, resentment, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry and doubt, when they all disappear, the mind becomes so delightful and becomes full of joy. This joyful state leads to happiness. Happiness leads to concentration. And that is why we are aiming at. So we gain concentration. And then concentration itself is not making us like a vegetable or rock, but concentration sharpens our mind. When mindfulness is strong, concentration is sharp. At that time, those things that we saw in the past, changing all the time, now we can see them changing faster than we saw earlier. Even the minutest thing in the cellular level change, even that we can notice. So with this, we continue to practice for next few minutes, and then we ring the bell exactly at 10:30. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish. May I join always with the wise until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Among questions, we have this first question.
Let me read.
Yes. Yesterday we learned that both begins as soon as there is the union of the mother's sperm, the father's sperm and mother's egg, and the Gandhabba, the seed of consciousness in the field of karma, watered by the moisture of desire, yield the Gandhabba. We also learn that if consciousness is not there at conception, mentality and materiality do not grow. And that if consciousness departs the mother's womb, then mentality and materiality cannot continue to remain, and therefore the embryo will not grow. And without mentality and materiality, there cannot be consciousness. So, what is the state of the mentality and materiality factor at the onset of birth, right after conception? Is volition in a dormant state in the fetus? At what stage does it become active? Okay. Mentality, materiality factors remain all like potential. Materiality factor is more prominent because the ovum and sperm are material, belonging to material factors, elements. Then the consciousness also is very rudimentary state. And then soon after that, maybe within an hour or so, they start, all of them begin to proliferate. Mentality factors continues to proliferate, multiply. Materiality factors start multiplying, and they grow very, very fast. And until the fetus come out of mother's womb as a baby, the volition is not activated. Volition begins to activate soon after coming into existence. For instance, as soon as we came out of the mother's womb, there is a will to breathe. We feel the pressure, and then because the lungs are urging to get oxygen, then through when we cry, then lungs begin to activate. The cry comes from the volition, will, until such time even volition is inactive, dormant state. After coming out of the womb, then volition activates for gasping breath, bringing oxygen in, because we are deprived of oxygen from mother. Mother provided everything to us. As soon as we came out of the womb, we are on our own. And that time we need oxygen. So that is how volition activates. Okay? Then next question is, does our ayusha come to an end according to our karma or according to any sickness we may have? Our lifespan comes to an end when that lifespan for that particular life is there. For instance, generally human life maximum lifespan this period is 120. This can vary from period to period, but in this period it is considered to be 120. And therefore when we are born, we may live up to 120 maximum, and then we die. Even if we have good karma to live long, the conditions may not be ready to prolong our life, ayusha. Our telomere in the chromosomes, telomere is enzyme which is protein, becomes weaker and weaker, and our chromosomes cannot produce more telomere, and then because they themselves are getting weaker, when they cannot produce any more enzyme, the protein, then life comes to an end. However, even if our lifespan is 120, due to sickness we may die, or due to accident we may die. Some people even out of frustration kill themselves. So this is how life becomes. That is according to karma theory, that is called upaghataka karma. Janaka karma, upatambaka, upapila karma, upatta karma, upapila karma, upaghata karma. There are 4 functions. Janaka means the karma that makes us birth possible. Then supportive karma, upatambaka. Then upapilaka means falling sick very, very, very often. That is pilana, obstacles. And then upaghataka means destruction. Taking a plant, for instance, when we plant a seed, this seed needs water, oxygen or carbon dioxide, sunlight, heat, and acid, uric acid, and so forth. They need to grow. When the plant is deprived of them, their growth is very slow and they may die. Sometimes when the plant is growing, an animal like deer come and nibble it and slow down the growth, and it may die. Or sometimes somebody may cut it, then it dies, and so forth. Just life is like that. Okay, so then the next question, you read the question this time.
Bhante, it's not very clear, but we'll make the most sense out of it. At the stage of being on the threshold or gates to liberation with Panya, an attendant practicum Vipassana Samatha, and one has found to have variable residue of root kusala, is it feasible or advisable at that point upekha to gain in the stream without disrupting this precious present moment, Dhamma action?
Yes, at the moment of at the gates of liberation, they are called Vimukha Mukha, gates of liberation. At that time, if we remain mindful with concentration, these two must go together. We are mindful and also at the same time concentrated. At that time, what we are doing at with mindfulness? Mindfulness shows how quickly things change. There is no time to think, no time to verbalize, no time to create anything in the mind, because we are so precipitous, so close to death, or close to death to mundane life, and ready to attain liberation. We are at the threshold. At that time, our awareness of impermanence is very, very clear. That awareness is mindfulness of impermanence, and our concentration is very, very sharp. When these two combine together, what we have would be upekha, equanimous state, no partiality. And that with that state, very quickly cross the threshold, attain the stream entry. Together with, at that time it is so clear that there is no permanent self. That is, belief in permanent self is one of the fetters. That fetter will completely vanish from the mind, because we see very clearly things are incessantly changing. Everything that appears disappears immediately. So, equanimous state is dominating feeling. Equanimous feeling, dominating feeling among feelings. So we see rites and rituals have no place at that time. There is no doubt in our mind. This is it. So these three factors, doubt, holding on to rituals, and belief in self, all vanish because of the clarity, because of the understanding, perfect vision. When that happens, mind remains equanimous. Before long, one enters the stream entry fruition. Okay? The next question.
Yes. Venerable Bhante, what is the difference between the Gandhabha state and Antarbhava?
Antarabhava.
Antarabhava, a
Yeah.
state in between two bhava.
Antarabhava, yesterday I mentioned, I quoted the Buddha's recital, Buddha's teaching, there is no Antarabhava. There is no Antarabhava. That means there is no resting place between death and rebirth. There is no resting place. It happens very quickly, within one fraction of thought moments. You remember in thought arises in 3 stages: rising moment, peak moment, and passing away moment. These are moments which we cannot calculate in terms of time, cannot calculate in second. I think there is a nanosecond. I don't know what nanosecond is, but that quickly one departs from this life and the next life begins. So in between there is no time, no place to rest. And therefore resting, or what you call Antarabhava, Antarabhava is not recognized, and Buddha did not say that there is Antarabhava. Next question.
Again, related Gandhabha, I will ask, how should consciousness at Gandhabha birth be understood? If this prior to the development of an individual's 6 sense base organs?
Yes. Before the development of 6 sense base. So I must say, consciousness, when we talk about consciousness, we talk about a consciousness that is active. But consciousness is always not active. It remains dormant. Sometimes when we don't think, don't speak, don't act, or we are in sleep, still consciousness is there in sleep. Even in deep sleep, consciousness is there. And in deep sleep, consciousness functions in its own sphere, in its own domain. I can give you a very crude example. You have a computer. You turn it off and go to bed. Next morning you turn on the computer clock is running. I cannot see any clock in the computer, but there is some chip which is programmed. Those programmers or software engineers, and it is somewhere, I don't know myself where it is. But when I turn on, time is there, date is there. Similarly, this is a good example because in the computer science they deal with something material. We have to talk, we have to think in terms of non-material phenomenon. Consciousness belongs to non-material phenomenon. And this phenomenon has its own law. This is called Chitta Niyama. There are 5 laws: Kamma Niyama, Chitta Niyama, Utu Niyama, Bija Niyama, Dhamma Niyama. 5 niyamas. The consciousness belongs to Chitta Niyama, of its own sphere, law. of law. And it has its own way of remaining dormant until a very tiny little something appears, arises through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind itself. So, yes, Gandhava is something like that, which you cannot, which itself is not something material, but it is so powerful, both mentality and materiality can be activated with this consciousness. Yes. Next question.
Now, I'll continue the Gandhapa question. Is Gandhapa attracted to a specific set of parents, or is it due to karma, or is it random?
Not random. It's due to karma. That's also a good question. Friends, in our life, suppose we have committed something not wholesome, and then we realize later on what we have committed was not wholesome, and before our moment of death, we loathe it, detest, resent it, the particular life, any very, very, very bad life of animals, animal life for instance, and life of very, very miserable life. On this earth we can see some individuals live in such a inexplicably miserable life they live, and we then never wish to be born in those places. But we have prepared ourselves by committing certain karma. Those karmas are so bad that we will be definitely born in such and such a place. But we never like it. At the moment of death, when all the senses are inactive, only the last mind moment remains. At that moment, in our mind appears that the worst, dirtiest, ugliest, most miserable place as a beautiful place, attractive place, desirable place. And desire is there, ignorance is there, karma is there, and right away we take rebirth in that particular place. So, it doesn't happen randomly. Other things can happen randomly, but this process of birth or rebirth, we must say, happens according to that particular karma, not randomly. Okay.
Is there anything called pure consciousness? Could you please explain?
Yes, you can make the consciousness pure when the consciousness is free from sankharas. That is what the Buddha said, visankaragatan cittam tannanam kayama jaga. When ignorance and craving are completely vanished, wiped out, destroyed, evaporated, then the consciousness becomes pure consciousness. As long as greed, residue of greed, an iota of greed remains, that much ignorance is there. As much as ignorance there, that much greed is there. Because these two go together hand in hand. These both are equally powerful. Because when there is a greed, ignorance is definitely there. With ignorance, greed is definitely there. And therefore when these two, greed and ignorance, completely vanish, wipe out from the mind, then the consciousness becomes pure. Okay, next question.
Can karma be combination of defunct karma and other types of karma, indefinite effective karma? The story of a lady who offered food to Buddha and experienced immediate effective karma to be king's wife. If she didn't accept king's proposal, her karma was defunct. Will this good karma stays to ripen in the future life?
Okay, if she didn't accept king's proposal, her karma was defunct. Will this good karma stays to ripen in the future life? Now, if somebody commits a karma almost spontaneously, it's called Somanasagata Jnana Sampayuta Asankharika. Good karma. Somanasagata Jnana Sampayuta Asankharika. That means the person is very, very, very happy. Somanasa. At the same time, the person has a very deep understanding, jnana. And the situation arises at that very moment. These three, sometimes people call coincidence, when these three happen together at the very moment, then the karma becomes very, very powerful. For instance, suppose you want to give something to someone, say an arahant. You are so happy to give something. Maybe you have some kind of medicine or clothes or food or something. You want to give. You are very happy to do that. And also you know the results of giving. That brings ansans. Ansans means peace. Peace. You know, giving makes you very, very peaceful, thinking, I am free from that. Peace. No worry, no need to think about it. So you are happy. Yes. Then you know the results. At that very moment, an arahant appears right at your doorstep. So you will be so delighted with that delight, with understanding, offer that particular thing. The result is immediate. You have no way to stop it. You will really reap the benefit right then and there. So, that is called Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya Kamma. Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya Kamma. Both sides. On the bad side as well as the good side. I gave you example of good side. Good side. You can find examples for the bad side everywhere, all over the world. But very seldom can you hear the results of good karma that ripens immediately. Very seldom. Because the world likes to hear the exciting news, excitement. Good karma is so pacifying, calming, soothing. Their minds are not ready to be so calm and soothing. They need little excitement. Oh, and so the reporters, news, media, all media like to boost to excitement. So they bring all negative things. So, friends, this is a very good question, and I have to end this morning session. And thank you very much for asking these good questions. Okay, once again, I want to share merits with everybody. Those who are suffering from various diseases, COVID, its variants, and cancer or whatever, may they recover very quickly and continue their normal life, practice Dhamma, and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. Those doctors, nurses, hospital staffs, whoever support them to continue their compassionate work, risking their own life while taking care of their patients, may those doctors, nurses, their staffs be well, happy, and free from any of these diseases, live long in very good health. Those who have lost their loved ones, may they have been grieving, may they be free from that grief and return to normal life and continue Dhamma practice and liberate themselves from suffering. Those leaders who have very compassionately given very meaningful leadership to either prevent or to overcome this virus, and then may they continue their far-sighted, mindful, insightful leadership. And others who are lagging behind and yet want to support their people in many ways to remain healthy, may they continue their work and live long in very good health. Overall, all those who are very generously supporting in many projects, many individuals, to even sharing merits, even wishing them well, they are also doing some service to the world. May they all live long in very, very good health and continue Dhamma practice and liberate themselves from suffering. So may all beings, in other words, be well, happy and peaceful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu,
Bhante.
sadhu, sadhu.
Everybody.